Hey, we said it in the pregame and in talking to Jay Forster of Locked On Blue Jackets that there was going to be some energy in this one. And for the Wild, I think the most important thing is just getting out of here with 2 points. We have a lot to break down here in tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. We'll talk about an electric start for Matt Boldy and company. We'll talk about some things that need to get ironed out on the power play and penalty kill. We'll talk about the rest of the lineup as well. And for those Blue Jackets fans in town here tonight, we'll let you know what I liked about Columbus's game here in this one as well. Minnesota Wild pick up a 3-2 win over Columbus. Let's talk about it in tonight's Locked On Wild postcast.
You are Locked On Wild postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in once again, 3-2 win for the Minnesota Wild here tonight as they take care of business against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But it wasn't easy, and it very clearly was the first game of the season for the Minnesota Wild. More on that in a bit, but we're going to start with what I liked on the Minnesota Wild side. We'll talk about what I liked on the Columbus Blue Jackets side, and we will take a look at some of the keys to this one here tonight. We will, of course, get to all of your comments as well here in our live postcast. But let's start with what we liked from the Minnesota Wild side of things, and we got to start with the new friend of the show, Matt Boldy, looking absolutely unbelievable tonight. Had a goal. He probably should have had two, as he nearly threaded the needle between Elvis Merzlikins' head and the post for what would have been his second goal of the night. But that second line was the catalyst for the Minnesota Wild in this one tonight, as Eriksson Ek, Marcus Johansson, and Matt Boldy were driving play, were pushing the offense all night tonight. And I'm gonna start right off the bat. I tweeted this during the game. You may have seen it. Look, I have been as hard as anybody on Marcus Johansson over the last calendar year, and I am very willing to eat full plates of crow if Marcus Johansson plays like he did tonight for a majority of the season. Not only was Johansson active along the boards, he had two instances in which he took the puck and he flew directly at the goalie and tried to get a shot on net. Had a wraparound attempt as he just tore right at Elvis Merzlikins on the first one. And he also tore at the net later in the game and nearly had a goal there. Set up Eriksson Ek for the second goal of the game for the Minnesota Wild. And Trav brings up a very good point. This is game one of the season, and it's very different doing this against Columbus than it is doing this against Dallas. But that second line was impressive tonight, and Matt Boldy talked about the confidence that he has as a player and the opportunities that he wants to take advantage of throughout the course of this season, and he got things started on a strong note here in this one tonight. Let's talk about that top line: Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Zuccarello, and Marco Rossi. I'm not going to call it a bust after one game. Certainly, felt like they were just a little off tonight. There were a lot of attempts to try to stretch the ice, passes that were just a little bit too far away. In one case, Matt Zuccarello trying to spring Rossi for an attempt at the net, and the pass was just a little too far out of his reach. So I'm going to be really interested to see if they keep attacking like they did, that some of those passes are going to get ironed up, and I think that line is going to be there after they get a few games under their belt. The thing that I think was really impressive here tonight too was the play of Filip Gustavsson. He looked really good all night. He looked decisive. I talked about this with Isha in between the first period and the second period. I thought he looked decisive and was making decisions out there as opposed to really reacting to what he saw in the net. Nearly Columbus probably should have had another goal on the board if not for that goaltender interference call. But I thought that was some really good play by Filip Gustavsson here tonight. The other thing too, Denny points this out, and I agree fully. It was weird that it seemed like the even numbered lines 2 and 4, were the ones really pushing the play here tonight. The fourth line combination of Freddie Gaudreau, Murat Huznadinov, and Jakub Lauko, I thought did some really good things. They played hard and they played with speed. That was the big difference between these two teams tonight, and I think that's why a lot of people are pointing out the third line as not playing particularly well tonight, was because of all the speed that Columbus brings to the table. Those guys are going to be more important against the slower teams in the league, which there are fewer and fewer. And so I think there are going to be nights like this. Late in the game, there was some play by that Foligno line that led to a couple of good opportunities, and so I'm not writing them off yet, but it did look a little off kilter in this one tonight. Penalty kill. Oh, the penalty kill was again just a little bit of an adventure. Only technically credited with one power play goal, but I think the Kent Johnson goal must have just happened after that penalty expired. And there were some weird penalties in this game tonight. There was a delay of game. The Wild got called for too many men on the ice at one point as well. So, early in the season, you'd like to see that stuff ironed out before we get very far into the season. And I think this was a good example too. We talked about this after the final preseason game against Chicago. Don't look too far into the results of the preseason, because they happened mostly against Chicago, and they happened against a Winnipeg team that had really no regulars out on the ice. But hey, power play scored tonight. They did a good job of working the puck around on that goal scored by Matt Zuccarello. A lot of opportunities, I think, that could have been there on that power play. But I think what I'm going to try to do more of this year is call it out when there aren't goals scored. If the Wild move the puck around a bunch and end up scoring a goal, so be it. I think the thing that we all just want to see with that power play is that they work it around and that they get shots on net. So as long as there are shots going on the net, that's when things tend to work out better. We are going to get on to some of the things that I liked from the Columbus Blue Jackets here tonight, because they were flying around with some speed. They've got some nice players on that roster. And so we will take a look at all of that. Again, a little different format here for our postcast tonight, because I'm going to be helping Locked On Blue Jackets out by structuring this more like an episode, at least to start. So going to structure this with a little bit more segments, and then we will, of course, get into your comments as well as we continue. But Wild win tonight by a score of 3-2. We'll talk a little bit about what went well for the Columbus Blue Jackets in this one as we continue tonight's Locked On Wild postcast after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blue Jackets is brought to you by Indeed. We are driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to tonight's Lockdown Wild postcast. The Minnesota Wild pick up a 3-2 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. Taking a look at a few things that we liked for the Columbus Blue Jackets in this one tonight. Obviously, first game on the ice with everything that happened over the summer, losing Johnny Gaudreau. There was a tribute before the game here tonight. And this Blue Jackets team played with a lot of speed. I got to talk about Kent Johnson because that dude can fly, and he scored tonight in this one. And he looks like a building block piece for the Blue Jackets as they continue to maneuver through. You know, a lot of these players on this roster are on the older side, or on the younger side, excuse me. And they've got, you know, obviously Adam Fantilli. They've got Cole Sillinger. We mentioned Kent Johnson. They've got some nice young pieces on this roster, and they played hard all night tonight. I thought the Wild did a good job of really controlling the pace of that final 5 minutes of the first period. Most of the first was just kind of feeling it out, just to figure out kind of where both teams were at this point. Columbus mostly handled the second. They did a really good job of controlling the action, continuing to push at Filip Gustavsson, scored their goal, and they got one back in the third as well. So, look, that's a young Columbus team, but they played hard here tonight. They I think wanted to kind of channel some of that emotion from the tribute ceremony, and so they definitely funneled that into their play here tonight. You know, the big thing for the Blue Jackets is going to be trying to figure out that goaltending position. Elvis Merzlikins has been very up and down throughout the course of his career, and certainly not his fault on a few of those goals for the Minnesota Wild in this one tonight. But you know, that's going to be another point on the roster that I think Columbus looks to upgrade as they move through their process, because you know, I don't know if Merzlikins is what you would call a building block piece to build around this roster as they go. So Columbus, ultimately, they're a team that I think is expected to be in contention for a lottery spot this year, but I would call it progress. If I'm observing the Columbus Blue Jackets, I would call it progress if they just give an effort like they had in this one tonight. Like if they play hard, if they hustle. The speed was pretty apparent from the Blue Jackets throughout the night tonight. The speed is there. The key is going to be, can you get consistent goaltending or consistent scoring up and down this lineup? And so for the Blue Jackets tonight, they certainly had some opportunities, just couldn't get enough past Filip Gustavsson to factor in the win here this evening, which leads to the Minnesota Wild starting the season like they did last year with a 1-0 record heading into their second game of the season against the against the Seattle Kraken. Let's finish the first half of the postcast here tonight by taking a look at some of the things that the Minnesota Wild are going to need to, you know, tighten up a little bit. Some things that they're going to need to just keep in mind to try to get better, even production throughout the course of the lineup. And we'll also take a look at a few things one game into the season. Are we in need of, the panic button already one game into the season? Spoiler alert, probably not, but we'll finish this first half, and then, of course, we'll get to all of your questions and comments as we continue on here tonight. We're not cutting it short at a half hour. Just gonna kind of do a part 1 and part 2. So we'll continue the postcast here tonight. Minnesota Wild pick up a 3-2 win over Columbus. More postcast thoughts as we continue after this. Tonight's Locked on Wild postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed and win or lose when you place your first $5 bet. So take advantage of this great deal today. Head to FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Minnesota Wild again pick up a 3-2 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets as they improve to 1-0 on the season. Wild scored once in the first, once in the second, once in the third to take care of this one tonight. But it was not as though there aren't things that can certainly be ironed out as this season progresses. As has been pointed out, Denny mentioned it, and I think Dougie mentioned it as well in the comments. First line, just a little bit off. Just some passes that were just a hair too out of reach. Marco Rossi just continued what has been a trend for him, that he just continues to just battle out there, and just Zuccarello trying to set him up in front of the net was a little out of reach. You know, there was one instance on the near side of the net over on the Wild side of the on the Blue Jacket side of the ice, where Kirill was trying to get it to Rossi right up by the net, but the pass was broken up in front, and it ended up leading to a turnover for the Wild. And so, you know, some of that is hopefully going to be correctable, but let's keep this in mind too. This is why we saw John Hines utilize a few different combinations with different centers. We saw Eriksson Ek get some time with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello. We saw Ryan Hartman get some time with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello. So there are, you know, different combinations that they can go to if they feel the need to do that. And I'm just going to put this out there. It wouldn't surprise me if we continue to see, you know, the even numbered lines 2 and 4, kind of handle the business. It wouldn't surprise me to see a center swap there, just to see if that does something for the first and the third lines. Just to see, just to throw a wrinkle in there and see if that is what gets it done to get that top line on track. Because when you have the Boldy line doing their thing, you can afford to have one line really carry the load against a team lower in the standings like the Blue Jackets. That's not going to fly against Dallas. And so it is something to keep an eye on. I don't think it is going to be I don't think it's something that you need to really look at that at this point. We'll see how it goes against Seattle. Seattle is not a team that has as much speed as the Blue Jackets do. And so it could certainly be something that looks better against the Kraken than it did against the Blue Jackets here tonight. Just got to point out again, Blue Jackets have a lot of speed. They got a lot of young players on that roster. And this happened to the Wild last year against Columbus, where it seemed like the Blue Jackets were just skating circles around them. Now it wasn't as lopsided tonight, but that game last year, the Blue Jackets had, I think, 72 shot attempts in regulation. And so, the big thing that it comes down to is getting those lines to crash downhill and to get to the net. That's why it worked so well with Boldy, Johansson, and Eriksson Ek tonight, is because the goals that they scored were because they were pushing downhill and trying to go directly to the net. They were working on the cycle, and Boldy was able to wedge one in on a nice screen by Joel Eriksson Ek. Second goal, pushing downhill for Marcus Johansson and Joel Eriksson Ek. So push towards the net, good things will happen. And that's really all you can look for at this point in the season. Just looks like John Hines is speaking right now, so I'm going to go to the heat map for tonight's game quickly before we get some of John Hines' thoughts in this game as well. Again, that's going to be a new wrinkle that we add to our postcasts this year, is getting those coaches' comments as soon as they're posted, because you get the snippets on TV. We're going to try to get you the whole thing here this season. But let's go to the heat map for this one here tonight. So here is the and I'm going to get the heck out of the way for this and get all this stuff off screen. So here's the heat map for tonight's game. And if you notice, the Minnesota Wild's attempts, which are on the right, I see a lot from between the face-off circles and a lot in close. That you've got a goal just inside the right face-off circle. You've also got a goal at the back of the face-off circle where Boldy scored. If you look at Columbus's, they've got a fair amount of shots up in here close, but look at how much of this action is happening beyond the face-off circle from the perimeter. Like that is something that if you're Columbus, you're going to look at this and say, well, yeah, we definitely need to be attacking the net more, because if we're taking a bulk of our shots from these perimeter parts of the zone, your odds of scoring are very limited in those instances. So, it's early on in the season, but I like the fact that a lot of the attack for the Minnesota Wild happened on the right between the face-off circles and in front of the net. So I liked a lot of that. But again, this is Columbus. If you play like this against a team in front of you in the standings, you're probably going to be on the other end of it. But it was good enough for tonight. There's plenty to work on and plenty to iron out as this season unfolds. Let's at this point just go to some of the notable performances on the Minnesota Wild side of things. So Matt Boldy tonight, he had a goal, 2 assists, 3 shots on goal. He had a block, played 18 minutes, 43 seconds, and a 3-point night for Matt Boldy in his debut is exactly what you like to see. Joel Eriksson Ek tonight, he had a goal, 3 shots, he had a block, he had 4 hits, played 19:49 on the ice, 11 faceoff wins, 9 faceoff losses. Marcus Johansson, 2 assists. He had a shot on goal, played 14:03 tonight. And again, if he plays like he did tonight using that speed, that's going to keep that second line humming as long as he continues to be an impact participant on that second line. He'll hold that spot down. But if he doesn't, we all know who is on the team right now and is looking for a spot to be able to step in and help. Liam Ogren. And so as long as Johansson is participating and is helping contribute to goals, he was responsible for He was responsible for 2 tonight, or helped the Minnesota Wild score 2 goals. So as long as he's doing that, he's going to be a part of that combination. But I hope and trust that some of these leashes are a little on the short side, because we know. I don't have to rehash it 90 bajillion times. We all know what's going on. All right, I am working on if my laptop will help me out, which it doesn't look like it's going to. Looking to get the post-game audio. Why is this? Okay, I think we got it now. Or at least I have access to my computer again. That was tricky. Okay. Has not been posted as of yet, but when we do get that, we'll throw it in the chat, so that everybody can take a peek. Looks, I gather from the comments that Denny is having another apartment emergency, so hope everything is going all right there. Let's start getting to the comments in regards to tonight's win. We'll start it with Adam. Sloppy game, but 2 points is 2 points. Right, you are. Austin, nice win. Boldy looked fantastic. Seems like the Lockdown Wilds effect might be a tangible thing after joining the show, a 3-point game. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that is indeed an effect that we can tangibly put in. Alaskan Wampa here, wins a win. Let's go. Diane, yay for now. We'll take a win is a win. And so, I think that's the sentiment of a lot of people at this point. First game of the season. It's gonna be a little on the sloppy side sometimes. I'm just happy that it wasn't some sort of like a 6-0 rout like Edmonton had, like Colorado had. I'm glad it wasn't something like that, but there is plenty that can be ironed out here as the season unfolds. Aaron joining us tonight. The giveaways need to get better. I will agree. There were a lot of passes that were seemingly to Blue Jackets right in the middle of, especially in the neutral zone. Seemed like there were a lot of passes that were just headed straight into Nowheresville that led to turnovers for the Blue Jackets to push it up ice. Cinery. Gus was the player of the game by far. Boldy was also a stud. That is an A+ evaluation of what we saw. Tracy joining us. Locked in Boldy. Jesse Pierce is here. Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Second line. I'll sign Marcus Johansson to a contract myself, I guess. Goodness. He said he's kind of on a revenge tour this year, so he's clearly listening to some Locked On Wild or Bar Down Beauties, but decent game. Good first game. It's a win. You can't win them all if you don't win the first one.
There's always going to be stuff to iron out.
Yeah.
So, first game, got the win. Marcus Johansson revenge tour. I like that. We'll see. Hey, make sure to check out Bar Down Beauties, by the way. Jesse's A+. Let's continue to rifle through the comments here. Gus looked good, but looked good in game 1 last season. This is a good point because he had the shutout in game 1 last year against the Florida Panthers. And then after that, things really tilted in the wrong direction. But good catch by Dougie here. Jason Johnson, 2 points. Lauko played hard. That guy's going to be fun to watch. I think he's been adopted by the Buttes this year as their official podcast player. We'll go with Matt Boldy this year, but Lauko, he's going to fit in just fine. And he started it off on a good foot here tonight. Denny with a nice gem here. According to Tom Reed, Gus Bus lost 13 pounds and is in excellent shape. It feels like he moved around really good in the net. Had some good saves where he's really sprawled out to stop the action from getting to him. The word that I'm going to use for Gus tonight, decisive. I just liked how decisive he was out there. It seemed like he was reading the plays really well. And, that led to him being able to make a lot of saves as to just waiting for things to happen, which kind of got him in trouble last year. JoJo looks way different than last year. Still Victor Rask-like, but he looked like he cared. He was pushing. He was flying out there. I was impressed. But let's keep in mind it is game number 1. Aaron, if Matt Boldy gets a 246-point season, that would I think that would go very well for the Minnesota Wild here tonight. Ron, Gus should be number 1 star. Wild left him out to dry. A lot of comments about the second line, as Trav mentioned, looked really good here tonight. I thought they were the play drivers pretty much all night here tonight. Bum of the night. Marcus Foligno looked like he was an ECHL goon, slow, full seconds behind, terrible passes. Contract is already spoiling like milk. There was a reason that I kind of, in the stock market approach that we took to analyzing the team going into this season, I kind of held on that combination. I still think that third line can do some nice things, but there are going to be some nights they're not the fleetest of foot. There are going to be some nights where they just can't necessarily measure up. David, the Ek line and Marat's line were the lines that played well tonight. Well said. Well said here this evening. Some comments about Jake Middleton's play here tonight as well. That's going to be one I think to really keep an eye on here also, because it was not the best of seasons to end the year last year for Jake Middleton, and the hope was that having Jared Spurgeon as his line partner would fix a lot of that. Hopefully, just a blip to start, but again, we'll have to keep an eye on that as the season unfolds. Juice, praying for a Wild fail season as they know they should, since it's obvious Kirill doesn't want to stay. It's not obvious that Kirill doesn't want to stay. I mean, unless you are taking that Mark Lazarus walk back quote as gospel, that just because somebody else said something means that's got to be the case. I don't think it's set. I don't think it's certain that he just is 100% out the door at this point. I think the Wild have a really good chance with what they have coming up to be able to keep him around. Some really good, like, high impact players in the top of the lineup that are going to be able to make plays around him. So I don't think it's obvious. Respectfully, I disagree. I don't think it's obvious that Kirill is just 100% done with this franchise, and I'm not going to do it in game 1 of the season, game 1 of 82, because we're going to have plenty of time to cover this over the next 2 years. We're going to have plenty of time, and it's going to come up nationally all the time. So I'm probably not going to talk about it a ton unless there are developments that warrant the Kaprizov situation being brought up, because we know what's at stake, and there just is, I don't know, there's no need to really just push him out the door before he's even out the door. Alaskan Wampa likes the dub, but it'll be a long season if that's the status quo at home. Yeah, that was one of the things that was interesting about this one, is that there just were many points throughout this game where it got quiet, but there just wasn't a ton going on. And if you are a fan, you want to be watching exciting goals, you want to be watching exciting plays. Columbus did a good job of really controlling the action in that second period. And they really put the onus on the Wild to try to keep up, and Wild's kind of pulled it back in their direction enough to come away with the win, but better play, especially in that second period, is going to be needed going forward. Huzdinov is the new doer, pest on the PK, and has more offensive upside. Bingo. That's why we had him as a breakout candidate this year, because I think that speed is going to play so many different ways this season. So Alex joining the chat here tonight, and just to kind of throw it in there for the chat, one of the things that Alex and I will be diving into for Monday's episode, obviously we got the 3 games to start the season, but if you read the Athletic article by Joe Smith and Michael Russo about the 5-year plan that the Wild are currently in, we're going to dive into that too. We'll dive into that with a nice discussion, where we're at, what that all means. We'll have you covered, of course, as we do pretty much all season. Utah with another win so far this season. They have been very impressive through their first couple of games. Picked them as a playoff team in the Locked On NHL Western Conference playoff predictions. That's looking pretty good so far. Now it is 2 games, but they've got an energetic arena. They've been playing some nice fast hockey. It looks sustainable for the Utah Hockey Club here as the season gets going. So we'll see. Teams have gotten off to great starts and have absolutely lost it. Edmonton got off to a worse start than the Minnesota Wild did last year, and they ended up going to the Stanley Cup Finals and coming 1 game away from winning the whole thing. A lot can change. It's all about getting a handful of games under your belt to be able to make opinions and kind of gain data as to what this team is going to do throughout the course of the season. So, Saturday's game, it's going to be no picnic against the Seattle Kraken. And then you follow that up with your first divisional test against a very stingy Winnipeg Jets team. That's a tough start to the season. So, plenty of room to grow. I keyed in on this when we looked at the October schedule. It feels like you have to win both games at home before you go out on this long road trip. So the fact that they were able to get that here this evening was a good start in the right direction. I know, we'll see. We'll see with Marcus Johansson if his performance continues. It's 1 game. The key thing to pull here is that it's one game. It's 1 game. There's plenty to work on, but I figured this was going to be a little more of a fight than we expected. Foligno. Oh, I wonder if this is a joke. Unless he's talking about Nick Foligno, but Marcus was there. Just that third line was kind of quiet, at least tonight. But we'll see. We'll see. October Kaprizov doesn't come alive until the 3rd week of December. Well, I certainly hope that is not the case, because that is going to lead to a similar result to what we've seen over the last couple of seasons. Let's just go to the last few years for Kirill. So last year, he had 9 points in the month of October, 2 goals, 7 assists. 2022, 2023, He had 6 goals, 5 assists in the month of October, 11 total points. 2021, 2022, he had 6 assists. That was in October. He had 6 assists, no goals. And 2020, 2021, that's right. That season started in January. First month of the season, he had 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 total points. Maybe I should have tried to have. Maybe I should have had Kirill on the show to get him going, instead of Matt Boldy. Well, we'll see. Great point by Denny here. We've got another addition to the Lockdown Wild lineup that will be coming on, I think, once a month throughout the course of the season. Denny locked in Jack Carlson for the show. So that'll be a big Sunday ad as we roll through the season. So just another elite part of the puzzle here for the Lockdown Wild experience. I'm being told I need to pop my collar. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's do this as we continue to navigate through the post game here until post game audio gets put up, and then I can dive into it. So, player of the game. Everybody, throw your player of the game nominations in the chat. I have a feeling I know who we're going to get, but everybody put your player of the game so that we can get a little bit of a consensus as to who we have. We're definitely going to do fully popped collar for the dub. Amanda starts the voting with Gus. It's really going to be there are 2 options, and so I feel like at this point you maybe do co-players of the game, because I thought Boldy was great. And so maybe you just go Boldy and Gustafsson as co-players of the night. Obviously, we're going to do our 3 stars at the end of the night. That'll probably be posted tomorrow morning. Gus, Boldy, probably your first 2 stars, and then you can probably take your pick between Ek and Johansson. Maybe lean. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to give Johansson the 3rd. I'm going to give Johansson the 3rd star of the night because, like we said, I don't think there was anybody that was harder on him charting performance for the entirety of the season last year. So I'm willing to give him some applause for a really, really strong game tonight, I thought. So let's go Gus, let's go Boldy, and let's go Marcus Johansson for your 3 stars here tonight. I got to go back to Cinerary had an elite take in here. Hoptics getting it started. It may be a small sample size, but if we don't win the hockey Super Bowl, I'll be devastated. We may never lose again. Shark Boy Ben, I'm gonna pencil this in for an episode because, you know, looking at the stats, it does seem to be a thing. So we'll see. We'll have to see if we can get some more intel on that. As if that is like a tangible curse of some sort that there's something there. I don't know. I might have to dive into the film for that one. All right, just looking here. So I really want to get this in here, but it doesn't appear as though it's up yet. The pregame is, but the postgame is not. Okay, we're still a work in progress with that. But we'll get there. We'll get there, and it'll be, by the time I get home, it'll be up. And so then we'll do the three things to give you a more dynamic recap of this game straight from John Hines. We'll have that for you here tomorrow morning. Good question from Jay. Do you think Fleury plays one game this weekend? I think with the fact that it's a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday, I think he absolutely does. I think the way that I would probably do it is Fleury against Seattle and Gustavsson against Winnipeg is probably how I would draw that up if I was going to split the starts here. Because then I think after that they play, I want to say it's Tuesday. So there is a little bit of a breather, but I would imagine Jesper will be with the team for the road trip. I know he got sent down before the game today, but that was because Declan Chisholm was ill, and so he was not on the roster, so they recalled Damon Hunt. But I would imagine that Jesper will head on the road with the team for that 7-game road trip. And just throwing it out there, some of the results from tonight. The San Jose Sharks are currently beating the St. Louis Blues 2-1. The team that beat the Seattle Kraken on opening night. So weird things happening so far in the league. Defense has one more game to figure it out because it'll get ugly against Winnipeg if they don't. I have to trust that they'll get everything tightened up, and they'll have a good opportunity to try to bounce back with a more dynamic performance against the Kraken on Saturday. So we'll see though. It's something to definitely keep an eye on as the games start to pile up. Alaskan Wampa's message to the team tonight: do it again. Do it again. 2-0 is a completely different dynamic than 1-1, especially heading on the road. It feels really good to be. It feels really good to get that first win, but we saw it last year. The Wild got the first win against Florida, and then they got boat raced by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So 1-0 means nothing if you go 1-1. So it's nice to get the win, but there's definitely some stuff to get ironed out here as they move through. Tom wants to know why Liam Ogren didn't get into the lineup tonight. I think his play time is entirely tied to what we see from Marcus Johansson this year. And Marcus Johansson was good tonight, really helped drive play for that second line. Now, that's not going to be the case all the time. And with the fact that Ogren made the team, he's not going to just sit in the press box. He will get into the lineup at some point because there will be an injury that happens. There will be somebody will go into a little bit of a slump and need a breather. Like those things happen. And so it's just part of the process. Like, he was good enough to make the team, and he'll work into the lineup if somebody starts to have their performance dip. Let's see some other thoughts here. Yeah, Shark Boy Ben, that's the kind of pep talk that I would give if I was the head coach. It was good enough tonight, but if you're going to do that against the teams in front of you in the division, it's not going to lead to the same results. So it got the job done tonight, but there's plenty to work on, plenty to iron out before Saturday. I don't know what the practice schedule is, but I would imagine they've got practice tomorrow. chance to just kind of get back out on the ice, crisp things up a little bit, I think would do the team some good. And yeah, beyond that, I think I see it in the comments. I see the number 4 discussion in the comments. We may get to that before we sign off here for tonight. But Guerin has preached all summer they can't have a slow start, and Ron hopes Kirill also got the message. I don't worry about Kirill as much as I do about some of the other things. Like, the counterpoint to Kirill having a slow night tonight was how good Matt Boldy looked, and how he stepped in and he helped really push that second line to the front of the line here tonight. Because like the other thing too with Boldy was it was puck battles, it was pushing the puck at the net, it was handling the puck behind the net. It was the full package with Boldy here tonight, which was really impressive to see. And again, those comments that he made about wanting to take advantage of the opportunities and not looking at it as pressure, this is good exhibit A that he is really taking that to heart and putting it out on the ice as opposed to just saying it. So some good stuff from that second line. That's the big thing that I pull from this one is that that second line carried the lead, and that within the next game or two you're going to get the first line to be able to match that performance. And then at that point you've got 1 and 2 really pushing the play, and then line 3 and 4 can really kind of follow from there. So I think with that, we're going to call it here for this inaugural postcast tonight. Again, we'll have the 3 things recap for you coming up in the morning. I'll get all that audio downloaded when I get home. And Minnesota Wild win tonight. Some good steps, but plenty to work on before Saturday's game against the Seattle Kraken. I'll be right back here at the X for that game. So we'll have you covered pre and post. Going to do a squadcast with Erica Ayala for Locked on Kraken. So we'll have that for you coming up ahead of Saturday's game. And we'll have some episodes for you coming up tomorrow as well. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to hammer that like button. Alex, I should have had that meme keyed up. I got another hour in me. I'll bust that out for some road games this year. So appreciate everybody tuning in to tonight's Locked on Wild postcast. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes throughout the week. Wild win 3-2. Can they make it 2-0? We'll find out on Saturday. This is all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll catch you with a new episode coming up tomorrow.